Christmas Day, the first playoff game ever held in Kansas City, and the last pro football game ever held in Municipal Stadium. The Western champion Chiefs against the Eastern champion Miami Dolphins. For once, the Chiefs' principal offensive weapon was not Otis Taylor, but Ed Podolak, who played the greatest game of his young career. Against Miami, Ed Podolak rolled up 350 yards in total offense, the second best game total ever recorded in pro football history. And with the aid of a crushing block by Mo Mormon, number 76, Podolak scored the game's first touchdown, which gave the Chiefs a 10-0 first quarter lead. In the third quarter, a second effort burst by Jim Otis set up another Kansas City touchdown. And in the fourth quarter, a sensational Len Dawson to Elmo Wright bomb set up a third Kansas City touchdown. Despite the heroics of Podolak, Otis, and Wright, Bob Greasy kept bringing the Dolphins back with his passing to Paul Warfield. And with only a minute and a half to play, Greasy found Marv Fleming for the touchdown which tied the score at 24. Ed Podolak took the ensuing kickoff and headed upfield. Podolak's great play set up a chance for Jan Stenerud to win the game with a field goal from the 32-yard line with only 35 seconds left to play. Kansas City and Miami were now participants in only the fourth sudden death overtime in pro football history. And to begin it, the Dolphins could not keep the kickoff away from Ed Podolak. But beyond Podolak's return, the Chiefs could not move well. And so it was up to the Kansas City defense.
Big down, big down, big down! Come on, Carly, get in! Come on, Ed, put some pressure on him now!
In the sixth period, with both teams exhausted, a counter play sprung Larry Zonka for his only good gain of the day.
Come on, defense, now's the time, baby! Now's the time! Got to do it,
For Garo Yepremian and all of the Miami Dolphins, a moment of... For the Chiefs, a moment of horror. For every witness to the event, a moment forever crystallized in memory.
Oh, no.
In the longest pro football game ever played, Miami had defeated Kansas City 27-24. But this could not tarnish the glory of a season of triumph. A season in which Hank Stram had led his team to some of the greatest victories in their history, on their way to a 10-3-1 record and the Western Division title. 1971 had been a season of great plays, great players, and great victories. And the Chiefs could look forward to their new home at Arrowhead, knowing that the final season in their old home had truly been a year to remember.
In the AFC playoffs last week, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins hooked up in a duel that will have the armchair quarterbacks talking in their sleep for a long, long time to come. The 50,000 fans who paid their way into Kansas City's Municipal Stadium really got their money's worth. It was a football fanatic's dream. The Kansas City Chiefs and Miami Dolphins engaged in the longest pro football game ever played, a contest that lasted for 3 hours and 21 minutes. In the first quarter, there was no indication of the marathon to follow as Kansas City used number 14 Ed Podolak to set up a Jan Stenerud field goal for a 3-0 lead. With his ground game unable to move, Miami's Bob Greasy, number 12, tried to rally the Dolphins with passes to number 42 Paul Warfield. With Kansas City concentrating on Warfield, Greasy tried to hit his tight end, but number 63 Willie Lanier picked off the pass. Turning the ball over to Lynn Dawson is like tipping your hand to a card shark. And Dawson came up with aces as he hit workhorse Ed Podolak for a touchdown and a 10-0 first quarter lead. But the Dolphins made it to the playoffs on their ability to fight back. And number 42 Paul Warfield has been a key performer in Miami's title run. The Chiefs were shutting down the Dolphins' feared running game, and Greasy was often forced to throw. Greasy's gift for scrambling, plus his receiver's ability to improvise on broken plays, make the Dolphins' air game even more dangerous. Greasy's passing led to the first Miami touchdown, a 1-yard smash by number 39 Larry Zonka. That made the score 10-7 Chiefs. The man Lynn Dawson called on when he needed big yardage was Ed Podolak, who enjoyed his greatest day as a pro. But on the next play, Dawson fooled almost everyone as he made 3 backfield fakes. One man not fooled by Dawson's sleight of hand was number 45 Curtis Johnson, who ended the Chiefs' drive with an interception. After Miami failed to move, the Chiefs regained the ball, and the long striding of Ed Podolak was again Kansas City's main weapon. Although Podolak drove the Chiefs within scoring range, Kansas City failed to connect as Jan Stenerud missed a 29-yard field goal attempt. Stenerud had just been chosen for the Pro Bowl over Miami's Garo Yepremian. But the ill-fated Stenerud would have gladly traded his all-star selection for a one-way ticket to Norway had he known what misfortune awaited him. The next time Kansas City had the ball, a mistake again cost them dearly. Ed Podolak fumbled, and number 40 Dick Anderson recovered for Miami. With less than 2 minutes remaining in the half, the Dolphins were given another chance. After Bob Greasy failed to connect on passes, Garo Yepremian booted a 14-yard field goal to tie the score at 10-all. In the second half, Lynn Dawson decided to test his skill against the Miami secondary. A pass to number 89 Otis Taylor and a lateral to number 14 Ed Podolak showed that the Chiefs could move against the Dolphins. Although a penalty reduced the gain, the versatile Kansas City attack picked up more yardage as number 35 Jim Otis improvised for a gain to the Miami 1-yard line. Again, Otis got the call, and again he paid dividends as he put Kansas City back on top 17-10. The passing ability of Bob Greasy gives Miami a big play surprise that can quickly wipe out a lead. The Dolphins used a Greasy-to-Warfield pass to set up a 1-yard touchdown by number 21 Jim Kick that knotted the score at 17-all. The battle had not yet produced a victor, and after 3 quarters, the guns were far from silent. At the end of 3 quarters, 2 of football's finest teams had battled to a tie. Who could have foreseen that the outcome would be decided by a ski jumper from Norway and much later a tie maker from the island of Cyprus? In the 4th quarter, the Dolphins recovered a fumble and turned the ball over to Bob Greasy, who was facing one of his toughest tests. On 3rd down and 8, Greasy again came up with a big play. Greasy was brought down hard, and it was apparent that he was in pain. The gutty quarterback was playing with an injured left shoulder, but Greasy obviously feels that his playing with pain will be soothed by a share of the Super Bowl money. Miami's efforts came to an end when linebacker Jim Lynch, number 51, picked off a misdirected Greasy pigskin. The defense had again given the Chiefs a big break, and Lynn Dawson was determined to untie the tie. A short pass to Willie Frazier, number 83, set Miami up for a bomb from Dawson to number 17, Elmo Wright. Although Elmo failed to score, the rookie felt he was close enough to show off his touchdown strut in the end zone. The 63-yard pass play set up a go-ahead score for Kansas City as Ed Podolak's second touchdown put the Chiefs in front 24-17. There were just 7 minutes left in the game, but it was time enough for another remarkable rally by the amazing Dolphins. Paul Warfield hauled in 7 passes for 140 yards. But his receptions on this drive were the most important, as they led to a game-tying touchdown. Greasy's razor-sharp passing took Miami to the Kansas City 5-yard line. And with time running out, Greasy coolly rolled to his right and found tight end Marv Fleming for the touchdown that tied the score. With a little over a minute left, it looked like the tie would hold, but Ed Podolak had not yet put the final touches on a glittering performance. The former college quarterback from Iowa scorched the field for 78 yards and almost went all the way. With the ball in the Miami 22, the Chiefs decided to run out the clock and try to set up a game-winning field goal by Jan Stenerud, one of the most accurate field goal kickers in the game. 50,000 fans and millions more watching on TV glued their eyes to the former ski jumper from Norway. 32 yards separated Stenerud from fame or infamy. Incredibly, Stenerud misfired and Miami took over with the score still tied. The Dolphins failed to run out the clock and were forced to punt with 7 seconds left. Time ran out as Dennis Holman made a fair catch. Here the Chiefs decided not to attempt a free kick that would have had to travel 68 yards and could have been returned by Miami. Now the game went into overtime. The Chiefs won the toss and decided to receive. Miami tried to keep the ball away from Ed Podolak, but one way or another, he was destined to carry the ball. Kansas City advanced the ball to the Miami 35, where Jan Stenerud had a chance to redeem himself. But Nick Bonacani blocked the kick and breathed life into the Dolphins. On Miami's first series in the overtime, the Chief defense seemed destined to crush the magical antics of Bob Greasy. After Kansas City again failed to score, Greasy battled a tough Chief defense, but the drive came to an end on the Kansas City 45. On fourth down, Garo Yepremian tried a 52-yard field goal, but his kick fell short and the marathon continued. Now it was Len Dawson's turn to see if the scoreboard still worked. On 3rd and 5 at midfield, Dawson tried to hit Elmo Wright, but instead found Miami's Jake Scott as the seconds ticked away and the game went into a second overtime. The Miami ground game had been held in check for most of the day, but burly Larry Zonka, number 39, finally broke a big one to set up the game-winning field goal. Two giants of the gridiron had battled for over 3 hours, but the burden of victory rested with a 5'7" place kicker from Cyprus. Garo Yepremian met that test. Another view of the game-winning field goal shows that Yepremian knew it was good as soon as he kicked it. The glory that had eluded Jan Stenerud descended on a man who led the NFL in scoring, but failed to earn a berth on the Pro Bowl team. For a happy Garo Yepremian, one Super Bowl will mean more than 1,000,000 Pro Bowls. In only the 4th sudden death overtime ever played, Don Shula's young team had become an unforgettable part of pro football's rich history. Well, football fans will be rehashing that one for many decades to come, I'm sure of that. Now it's time for Pat Summerall and I to make our final picks. And since Pat isn't here, I guess Pat, I'll make the picks for you. Let's see, San Francisco at Dallas. You've been partial to the Bay Area boys all year long. You get San Francisco, and I'll go with the Dallas Cowboys, a team that certainly found itself both on offense and defense. Baltimore at Miami. I'm partial to the Fun and Sun boys. I'll go with Shula's Miami Dolphins, and you get the tough Baltimore Colts. I'll also take the Dallas Cowboys to go all the way and win the Super Bowl. And Pat Summerall, I'm going to give you Buffalo. At any rate, we won't be back next week to show you what happens, but...
Christmas 1971. Santa Claus came to Kansas City, but for the Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins, their AFC playoff games seemed more like Labor Day.
That game was a struggle, and you had to concentrate so much on the fact of the struggle and to keep renewing your enthusiasm and your determination just to hang on and not let them take it.
Well, that game had everything. That just had offense, it had defense, it had the kicking game, it had Podolak. We still haven't figured out a way to stop Podolak in the ball game.
Kansas City's Ed Podolak, number 14, an obscure running back who rarely played in the spotlight, took center stage against the Dolphins, both through the air and on the ground.
It seemed like everything we tried offensively worked. Every time I got the ball, there was a huge hole. I remember one situation where we'd even completed a pass to Otis Taylor, and I happened to be right in the right place at the right time, and he lateraled the ball to me, and we gained an additional 20 or 30 yards on the play.
Podolak weaved his way in and around the Dolphin defense and ultimately into the end zone to give the Chiefs the early lead.
Podolak found the perfect Christmas gift for his team. A postseason record-setting effort of 350 all-purpose yards.
It was the kind of day that you really can't explain why it happened. Of all the games I'd played in as a pro, some days things just seem to click, and some days you can't make things work no matter how hard you try.
While Podolak became the game's main attraction, everything seemed to click for quarterback Len Dawson and his supporting cast as well. In contrast to the Chiefs' lofty performances, Miami quarterback Bob Greasy directed a steady ball control offense that was anchored by their backfield duo, Larry Zonka and Jim Kick, number 21. While Miami counted on Butch and Sundance for the touchdowns, it kept the Dolphins in the game. The Chiefs turn once again to old reliable Ed Podolak for the fourth quarter lead. But the Dolphins proved to be the match of the Chiefs, mounting a comeback each time they were down.
We had several opportunities during that ball game to quit and say, listen, we're young, they're the champions, we're just young people just getting our feet on the ground. We've played well. We've played well to get here. We've played well against Kansas City, the champions, and we can just pack it in and go home. But several opportunities, several times we didn't do that, and we just kept coming back, and finally things turned our way.
Mar Fleming's touchdown tied the score with less than 2 minutes to play. But the Chiefs, Super Bowl champions just 2 years before, would have one more possession. Back to receive the kickoff, of course, Ed Podolak.
He gets it high, back right on the goal line, and Podolak out to the 5, the 10, the 15, to the 20, the 20 to the goal. He's at the 50, down to the 40, the 35, and he's out of bounds. Down the far sideline, up the 22-yard line. That's exactly what we did not need. Oh, what a way to lose the ball game.
The return deep into Dolphin territory set the stage for a game-winning field goal attempt by Jan Stenerud, one of the best in the league. But Stenerud's shocking miss sent the game into overtime.
I just couldn't believe that he missed it. We were exuberant. I mean, I think it was from like the 17 or 20 yard line, something like that. It was a chip shot for Jan. I don't know what happened, whether it was the holder or the snap or whatever, but he missed it. Gave us renewed enthusiasm.
They had just dodged a bullet in the fact that we had missed on a field goal attempt from in close to win the ball game, and it was us that had the air come out of our balloon at that point, and we had to regroup in a hurry.
Both teams had to regroup, and it was the defenses that took control, turning the game literally into a standoff through the fifth quarter and well into the sixth.
It boiled down into a game that went back and forth and couldn't get much done. And then finally we go back to a play that we hadn't used in a long time. It was a rollout draw to Zonka coming back.
Come on, defense, now's the time, baby! Now's the time!
We knew Lanier and company would quite possibly run themselves out of the play if we set up and really pulled off a good enough looking fake. The defense was so aggressive, they were out of position because of their intensity. It worked, but I just ran out of gas about 40 yards down the field.
Zonka's run gave the Dolphins their best opportunity for a game-winning field goal after almost 23 minutes of overtime.
How far, Carl?
It's 37 yards down.
The ball is right directly in the center of the playing field. If Garrow makes it, the Dolphins win. The big play of the game for the Dolphins. Here's the snap, step down, the kick is up. He's got the distance. It's good! The Dolphins win! The Dolphins win!
Miami's victory in the longest pro football game ever played established the Dolphins as the team to watch in the early 70s.
That was the first time that the Dolphins realized that we just weren't a flash in the pan, and that game seemed to go on forever. But somehow, some way, someone would make a play to keep us in it. And I think it was the first time that we realized that we could play heads-up football with just about anyone.
Offense, defense, our day, let's win!
Early in the game, it appeared the season would end on Christmas Day for Don Shula and the Dolphins. But Miami fought back, and midway through the third quarter, trailed by only a touchdown.
Too much yardage! All right, way to go, offense!
For the first time in 3 grueling periods of play, Miami had drawn even, but not for long. Faced with extinction late in the fourth quarter, Bob Greasy, flawless under pressure all day, rallied his team by hitting continually on third down. With time running out, the Dolphins had tied for the third time. But with just over a minute, the Chiefs suddenly struck back. Only 35 seconds remained, and Jan Stenerud had only to make a chip shot for the Chiefs to win. The Miami Miracle continued to sudden death overtime, where the first score would win. Tension and fatigue were mounting. An entire season would be determined by the next few plays.
How far, Carl?
It's 37 yards down.
Garrow, your premium, will attempt a 37-yard field goal.
longest game was over. In an historic football game, the Miami Dolphins were winners and would become champions of the American Football Conference. No team in football has come so far, so fast.
I'm Bob Delaney, and this is the NFL Game of the Week. Last week was playoff week. There was one game that was to stand above the rest as a memorable 3.5 hours of football. The game took place in this stadium, where Kansas City and Miami would record the longest game ever played. The Chiefs and the Dolphins were to demonstrate perhaps more than ever before why the game is called football. Jan Stenerud's towering kickoffs were a weapon in themselves, preventing any return on almost every one of them. From the outset, the Dolphins would try to run on Kansas City's defense, number 2 in the AFC against the run. And throughout the first half, the Dolphins' tandem of Jim Kick and Larry Zonka would be unable to do so. In fact, the Chiefs dominated the first quarter both on defense and on offense. The Chiefs moved well early in the game with Dawson's setbacks, number 14 Ed Podolak, and number 38 Wendell Hayes having more success than Miami's touted duo. With Miami's defense more wary of the Chiefs' passing, their running worked well and produced an early field goal. Then on the Dolphins' second series, Greasy sprung Paul Warfield for his first catch and the Dolphins' first down. Greasy would try to mix his targets, however, especially trying to clear his tight end over the middle. He tried this and failed, as middle linebacker Willie Lanier was in perfect zone coverage, intercepted, and caused one of the few turnovers Miami has suffered all year. An isolated view of Greasy on the last play showed that he saw his mistake immediately and came over to help on the tackle. Though he was not needed on the tackle, Greasy was playing with a sore shoulder, and it was a tribute to his courage that he tried. So the Chiefs had the first takeaway of the game, and Dawson took advantage. From the Dolphins' 30, he moved goalward with his runners, then tried to hit Otis Taylor for the score. But the Dolphins' secondary defensed Taylor well, one of the keys to the game. Taylor would make but 3 catches all day, and none of them game breakers. Instead, Hank Stram's strategy would be to have Dawson rely heavily on his setbacks, and in particular Ed Podolak. And it was Podolak who scored the touchdown. Repeating the score, we can see Dawson look the defense one way and go the other, where he had Podolak and number 76 guard Mo Mormon ready to stamp out any would-be tacklers. The Chiefs' strategy of ignoring the obvious in Taylor, using him as a decoy, and instead springing the quick Podolak wide on screens and sweeps had worked well, and Kansas City led 10-0. Conversely, Miami's only offense so far had been the obvious, Greasy to Warfield. Number 42 is a magician in cleats and took the Dolphins into Kansas City territory on the last play of the first quarter. The Chiefs were stifling Miami's running, and Greasy really had no choice but to continue to pass. He was receiving good protection, and this, plus his ability to roll out of pressure and throw accurately on the run, is one of the reasons the Dolphins got to the playoffs. His receivers are always conscious of this and work well with Greasy on a busted play, as number 80 tight end Marv Fleming did here. Three plays later, the Dolphins' Larry Zonka snuck over for Miami's first score. It was now 10-7 Chiefs. Dawson kept getting the big play from Ed Podolak, who had his greatest pro game last Saturday. The Chiefs' downfield blocking for Podolak was superb, and Podolak again sparked the Chiefs into Dolphin territory. Dawson's faking was superb too. On the next play, he fooled almost everyone with 3 backfield fakes. However, he failed to fool Curtis Johnson, number 45, who stayed right with Otis Taylor and halted the drive with an interception. But the Dolphins failed to move with the interception, and the Chiefs got the ball back on a punt. It was Podolak again, using his deceptive speed to outrun the Dolphins' line and linebackers, 32 yards to the Dolphin 29. This was to be one of the key series in the game, for although Podolak had taken them deep, the Chiefs came up empty. The Dolphins stopped them on 3 downs, and Jan Stenerud missed a 30-yard field goal. Stenerud had just been selected to the Pro Bowl over the Dolphins' Garo Yepremian, but the Norwegian ex-ski jumper had not had a particularly good year and had missed many medium-range attempts this year that were sure things for him in the past. None was more important than the one he missed here. So the Dolphins took over with under 4 minutes left in the half. And although Greasy had some success with short flips to his setbacks, the Dolphins could not reach midfield. Aside from the 1 touchdown drive, Miami could not figure out the Chiefs' defense, which was keying on Miami's runners and for the most part pressuring and containing Greasy. The Chiefs took over with 1.5 minutes left in the half. It was here that Ed Podolak, who had played so well throughout the game, made his only mistake. Trying merely to run out the halftime clock, Podolak lost the ball, Dick Anderson recovered, and the Dolphins would have the last shot before the half. Miami's defense is sometimes overlooked, but they had produced 2 takeaways in the half. Greasy failed to capitalize on Johnson's earlier interception, and now he failed to score on Anderson's recovery. But Yepremian did kick a field goal here to salvage 3, and the teams went into the locker room tied 10-10 at the half. In the third quarter, the Chiefs galloped downfield again on a long, time-consuming drive of the type Dawson used to beat Oakland to gain the playoffs. Stram decided to let Dawson use his wide receivers more in the second half on medium-range passes in front of Miami's zone. And 2 of the key plays in the drive were passes to number 17 Elmo Wright and to Otis Taylor, who lateraled to Podolak. A penalty on this play reduced the gain, but on the next play, Podolak ripped through a gaping hole up the middle. Stram had inserted the 3rd in his big back arsenal, Jim Otis, and number 35 made a key first down on 3rd and 2 from the Dolphin 13, bouncing off his own blocker and moving to the 1. 2 plays later, Otis went up and over, and the 16-play, 10-minute drive had put the Chiefs ahead 17-10. But the next 4 minutes saw the Dolphins do quickly what the Chiefs had taken almost a whole quarter to do. Thus began one of the great ironies of the game, the ability of Greasy and Miami to strike back swiftly. First, Greasy hit number 81, Howard Twilley. Then it was Warfield on the quick post between Jim Kearney and Emmett Thomas to the Chiefs' 7. Two plays later, on 3rd and goal from the 1, Jim Kick went over, and Yepremian's extra point tied the score at 17 at the end of the 3rd quarter. The game was dead even both on the board and on the field. It would remain so for a long time to come. On the first play of the 4th quarter, Nick Bonaconti recovered a fumble in Chief territory, and the Dolphins picked up where they left off in the 3rd period by moving the football. The big play was made by Bob Greasy with 3rd and 8 on his opponent's 29. The cool-headed quarterback with the aching left shoulder was brought down hard on his opponent's 17. Greasy was playing on courage, for few people know how much his shoulder injury has bothered him. Notice how limp his left arm appears. It's almost completely immobile, and though it's not his passing arm, the disability definitely hampered him in the last 3 games of the season, 2 of which Miami lost. One play after his run, Greasy passed right into the arms of linebacker Jim Lynch. Miami's first series of the new quarter, like Kansas City's, had ended in a turnover. The Chiefs had a break, the ball on their own 9, and quickly moved out on 2 short runs, and Dawson's pass to tight end Willie Frazier, playing in place of Morris Stroud. The Chiefs' short game had drawn the Miami defense in tight. So here, from his own 34, Len Dawson threw the long ball. It's doubtful that Elmo Wright really thought he'd scored. More likely, the rookie wanted a chance to show off his victory dance to a national television audience. Another look at this big 63-yard play in super slow motion should dispel the notion once and for all that Len Dawson's 36-year-old arm isn't strong enough to throw the bomb. On the next play, behind beautiful blocking, Ed Podolak powered past safety Dick Anderson into the end zone for the touchdown that put his team in front, 24-17. There was just 7 minutes left in the game now, but it was enough time for Bob Greasy to put on a furious display of pinpoint passing that brought Miami right back in the game. First, after rolling right, Greasy turned and threw across the field for his tight end Marv Fleming on a play that produced 13 yards and a first down on the Miami 42. Here, Greasy sprung the reverse to Warfield, but the flanker fumbled. Luckily, Bob DeMarco recovered and Miami retained possession. 3rd and 13, and Greasy went to his ace Warfield, who had beaten Emmett Thomas over the middle. The Dolphins had the first down they so desperately needed. From here, Greasy simply peppered the Kansas City secondary with a succession of short, accurate passes. First to Jim Mandich at the right sideline, then a perfectly lofted pass to Warfield, who took it all the way to the Chief 12. On this key pass, Warfield was operating on the short side of the field with little room to maneuver. Yet his moves completely fooled Emmett Thomas, number 18, who could only leap in a futile gesture at the pass over his head. Now from the 12, Greasy continued his aerial onslaught with a rollout bullet to Howard Twilley at the 5-yard line. Miami called timeout. There was now only a minute and a half remaining in the game. Here on his opponent's 5, with no time left for mistakes, Bob Greasy vividly demonstrated why in this, his 5th NFL season, he has become the complete pro quarterback. Greasy's primary receiver was blanketed in the end zone, so he improvised. Rolling to his right, he spotted a secondary outlet in Marv Fleming and hit him for the touchdown. The Dolphins had again spotted the Chiefs a touchdown, then marched the length of the field to tie them. unbelievably, even with a little over a minute left, this game was far from over. The reason again was Ed Podolak. The third year back from Iowa took the kickoff and burned 78 yards through the Dolphins before being pushed out of bounds by Curtis Johnson. It was fitting that the all-purpose Podolak made the big play, for his consistency and variety of talents are a major reason why the Chiefs won the Western Division for the first time since 1966. Now Kansas City had the ball on the Miami 22 and elected to lifelessly run 3 consecutive times. It ensured keeping the ball for the almost certain field goal that would win the game. The strategy also served to run the clock down, despite the fact that Miami called time immediately after each play. So the stage was set for Jan Stenerud, possibly the premier kicker in the game, to kick the winning field goal from the 32-yard line with only 35 seconds left. It seemed like a sure thing, but it wasn't. Incredibly, Stenerud had missed the chip shot, and Miami took over with the game still deadlocked at 24 points. Surprisingly, the Dolphins failed to even run out the remaining 35 seconds and were forced to punt with 7 seconds left. Time expired by the time Dennis Homan made a fair catch. But here, Hank Stram decided to forego the attempt of a free kick, which would have had to travel 70 yards and could have been returned by Miami. The game now went into overtime. The crucial coin toss was won by Kansas City. Remember, in sudden death overtime, the first team to score in any way wins, so the Chiefs had a decided advantage already. Garo Yepremian kicked off, purposely keeping the ball low and away from Ed Podolak, but he ended up with it anyway, and again made a fine return, giving his team excellent field position on their own 46. Already, the Chiefs were close to Stenerud's field goal range, and they quickly improved their position on the first play when workhorse Podolak took a screen into Miami territory. Len Dawson, who had called a fine game today, stayed with Podolak and was rewarded with even better field position. But Dawson may have gone to the well once too often, for on the next play, Podolak fumbled, and though Miami gestured madly, Kansas City recovered the ball on the Dolphin 35. Stenerud came in to kick. The game appeared lost for Miami. But Nick Bonaconte blocked the kick, and the Dolphins again had a new life after teetering on the brink of defeat. On this series, Miami's first in overtime, the Chief defense seemed to vent their frustration on the Dolphins. Aaron Brown crashed into Greasy's sore shoulder, and the young quarterback obviously felt the pain. This was a great day for the AFC's number 1 and number 2 passers, both former Purdue quarterbacks, although a decade apart. Today, both were magnificent. Again, the Chiefs smelled out the flanker reverse, Marvin Upshaw tripping up Warfield for a loss that ended Miami's first overtime series. But their defense held the Chiefs and forced a punt to Jake Scott, the second leading returner in the AFC. And Scott's 18-yard dash gave Miami decent field position, which is so important in sudden death. Miami picked up additional yardage and a first down when Greasy fired to Twilly at the right sideline. But their next 2 plays got nowhere against the Chiefs' defense. Watch Marvin Upshaw, number 81, shrug off a block by Larry Little. Larry Zonka was the victim. The huge fullback had been held in check so far today. Now faced with 3rd and 9, Greasy went for Warfield, who this time was well covered by Emmett Thomas. Warfield caught 7 passes today, most of them on Thomas. But here, with Miami driving, the cornerback came up with a vital save. A repeat in slow motion shows how he did it. Thomas's heroics made it 4th down and forced Miami to try a field goal from the 52. Yepremian's attempt was short, and Kansas City had the ball again. From his own 20, cool Lenny Dawson faked to Podolak and pitched to Elmo Wright, who made his second big catch of the day. Miami was giving special coverage to Otis Taylor, and though he would catch 3 passes today, his total yardage was merely 12. Here, faced with extinction again, the Miami defense got tough. Ed Podolak was brought down for a loss by Nick Bonaconti, one of 20 tackles or assists made today by the Dolphin captain. Now faced with 3rd and 5 at midfield, Dawson tried for better position for his kicker and lost. Jake Scott fielded the ball and returned 13 yards to the Miami 46 to end one threat and set up a new one for his own team as the game went into the 2nd period of overtime. But even this break didn't help Miami, as on 3rd down, Greasy scrambled away from intense pressure, ran right up to the scrimmage line, and let fly with everything he had. Jim Mandich had safety Jim Kearney beaten, but the pass was on the wrong side and fell incomplete. Another opportunity had been missed by Miami, but their defense again stopped the Chiefs, and Greasy had the ball on his own 35. He called for Zonka on a counter against the flow, and the big back finally broke loose. This play, one of the biggest of many in this thriller, finally brought Miami into good field position, and Garo Yepremian came in to make the most important kick of the 1971 NFL season. It was good. Another look shows Yepremian knew it was good as soon as he kicked it. His holder, Carl Noonan, waited for the signal before celebrating one of the most exciting victories a team has ever won. In the longest professional football game ever played, a field goal had propelled the Miami Dolphins into the championship game. In only the 4th sudden death overtime in the league's history, the Kansas City Chiefs' dream of a 3rd Super Bowl was ended, while Don Shula's young team had kicked and scratched and came from behind to prove that they're a team that has arrived.